Hi, I'm Mona. I'm 26. Let me ask you something. Have you ever told yourself, I really want to improve my English? But then the day became busy, your energy disappeared, and nothing happened. You wanted to study for 1 hour, maybe even 2 hours. You wanted to be serious this time. You wanted to change your life. But then work was tiring. Your phone distracted you. The day moved too fast. And at night, you looked back and thought, again, I did nothing again. If that has happened to you, you are not lazy. You are not weak, and you are definitely not alone. Many English learners do not fail because they lack desire. They fail because they believe progress must look big to be real. They think improvement only counts if they study for a long time, use difficult books, memorize hundreds of words, or follow a perfect plan. So when they cannot do all that, they do nothing. And slowly, they begin to believe that English is too hard, that life is too busy, and that real progress is only for people with more time, more money, more discipline, or a better situation. But what if that is not true? What if one of the biggest changes in your English does not start with 1 hour a day? What if it starts with 15 minutes? 15 simple minutes. 15 focused minutes. 15 honest minutes that you repeat every day. That does not sound dramatic. It does not sound magical. It does not sound exciting enough for people who want fast results. But quiet things often change our lives more deeply than dramatic things. A small action repeated consistently can become a new identity. A short study habit can become real confidence. A few minutes a day can slowly change the way English feels in your mind, in your mouth, and in your daily life. Today, I want to tell you a story. It is a story about frustration, false starts, guilt, small routines, and the surprising power of 15 minutes a day. It is also a practical lesson. You will learn why small daily practice works, what you can do in 15 minutes, how to stop waiting for the perfect moment, and how to build real confidence in English without needing a perfect schedule. If you are busy, tired, discouraged, shy, or stuck, this lesson is for you. Welcome and what you will learn. First, I will tell you a personal story about how I used to think English improvement had to be big, difficult, and exhausting. Then I will show you how 15 minutes a day changed the way I studied and the way I felt. After that, I will teach you a simple daily structure you can actually follow. Then we will do a small practice together. And at the end, I will give you questions to reflect on your own English routine. I will use clear language, short explanations, and natural examples. Ready? Let's begin the old way I used to think. For a long time, I believed something that sounds serious and intelligent but is actually very dangerous for many learners. I believed that if I was truly committed to English, I needed to study for a long time every day. Not 10 minutes, not 15 minutes, not a little, a lot. I thought real learners studied 1 hour, 2 hours, maybe more. I imagined serious people sitting at clean desks with notebooks, perfect handwriting, organized vocab lists, and strong motivation. I imagined them doing everything correctly: reading, writing, listening, shadowing, grammar practice, speaking, reviewing, all of it. And because that was the image in my mind, I kept creating impossible plans for myself. On Sunday night, I would feel inspired. I would say, this week will be different. I would write a beautiful schedule. Monday, grammar for 45 minutes. Tuesday, listening for 1 hour. Wednesday, vocabulary review. Thursday, speaking practice. Friday, reading practice. Saturday, shadowing and writing. Sunday, full review. The plan looked impressive. It looked disciplined. It looked like the kind of plan a successful person would follow. But then Monday arrived. I came home tired, or something unexpected happened, or I looked at the plan and felt pressure. And instead of doing a little, I did nothing. That is how perfection can quietly destroy progress. If the plan feels too big, the mind resists it. If the standard is too high, the body avoids it. If the study session has to be long and intense to count, then many normal days suddenly feel unusable. And that was my problem. I was waiting for ideal energy, ideal time, ideal focus, and ideal mood. But real life rarely gives us ideal conditions. Real life gives us interruptions. Real life gives us fatigue. Real life gives us responsibilities. Real life gives us imperfect moments. And if your English routine cannot survive imperfect moments, it will not survive long. At that time, I did not understand this. I just thought I needed more discipline, so I blamed myself. I called myself inconsistent. I told myself I lacked focus. I believed the problem was my character, but the truth was simpler. My method did not fit my real life. The week that made me stop and think. One week changed the way I saw everything. It was not a special week. That is what makes it important. It was an ordinary, busy week. I had work to do. I had messages to answer. I had house things to take care of. I was sleeping badly. I was feeling mentally tired. Nothing dramatic happened. It was simply one of those weeks when life feels full but not meaningful. On Monday, I told myself I would study English at night. I did not. On Tuesday, I said I would do double to make up for Monday. I did not. On Wednesday, I opened a video in English, watched 4 minutes, felt guilty, and closed it. On Thursday, I thought, maybe I'll start fresh next week. And on Friday night, I sat on my bed, looked at my notebook, and felt something heavy in my chest. It was not only frustration. I was disappointed with myself, not because I had done nothing in life. I had done many things. I had worked. I had answered people. I had handled responsibilities. I had moved through the week like an adult. But the one thing that mattered deeply to me, my English, kept becoming the thing I delayed. That feeling hurts, because English was not just a hobby for me. It was connected to confidence, opportunity, communication, work, and identity. When I delayed English again and again, I was not only delaying a subject. I felt like I was delaying a better version of myself. That Friday night, I opened my notebook and saw my ambitious plan for the week. It looked beautiful, clean, highly organized, and completely disconnected from reality. I stared at it and suddenly asked myself a question I had never asked honestly before. What can I actually do every day, even on a bad day? Not a perfect day, not a free day. Not a high-energy day. A bad day, that question changed everything. Because when I asked that question, the answer was not 1 hour. It was not 45 minutes. It was not even 30. The answer was 15 minutes. 15 minutes felt almost too small. Part of me resisted it immediately. 15 minutes, that's nothing. 15 minutes won't change anything. 15 minutes is too easy. 15 minutes is not serious enough. But another part of me was tired of failing with beautiful, unrealistic plans, and so I made a simple decision. For the next 7 days, I would do 15 minutes of English every day. No pressure to do more, no need to make it perfect, just 15 honest minutes. The first 7 days. The next day I started. I set a timer for 15 minutes. That was important. I did not say, I'll study a little. I gave the habit a clear shape. 15 minutes. I opened a short English video and listened carefully for a few minutes. Then I repeated some lines. Then I wrote down 3 useful phrases. The timer ended quickly and something strange happened. Instead of feeling guilty, I felt calm. I had kept my promise. The session was not dramatic. I did not become fluent in one evening. I did not learn 50 new words, but I did something more important. I built trust with myself. On day 2, I listened to a short English story and repeated key sentences. On day 3, I reviewed vocabulary and practiced saying the words aloud. On day 4, I watched a short lesson and wrote 5 example sentences. On day 5, I shadowed a speaker for 15 minutes. On day 6, I practiced speaking about my day in simple English. On day 7, I reviewed everything lightly. By the end of that week, my English had not transformed completely, but something inside me had changed. English no longer felt like a mountain I kept failing to climb. It felt like something I was touching every day. That feeling matters more than many learners realize. When English is always something you plan but do not do, it becomes heavy. It becomes painful. It becomes connected to guilt, pressure, and self-judgment. But when English becomes something you do daily, even in a small way, it starts to feel normal, familiar, part of your life, and once something becomes part of your life, progress becomes much easier. Why 15 minutes works so well. Now let's pause the story and understand why this small amount of time can work so powerfully. Many people think motivation creates consistency. But often, consistency creates motivation. When the study session is short, your mind resists it less. It feels possible. It feels manageable. It feels less threatening. You do not need perfect energy to begin. You do not need a special mood. You only need a small amount of willingness. And because it is easier to begin, you begin more often. That matters because language learning is not only about intensity, it is also about frequency. English improves when you meet it again and again. When you hear it often, words become familiar. When you repeat sentences often, your mouth becomes more flexible. When you see grammar patterns often, they become less confusing. When you practice a little every day, English stops feeling distant. Small daily contact changes the relationship. 15 minutes also helps because it reduces emotional pressure. 1 hour can feel heavy before it begins. 15 minutes feels light enough to start. And once you start, you often learn better because your mind is less tense. It also protects you from the trap of all-or-nothing thinking. All-or-nothing thinking sounds like this. If I can't do 1 hour, it's not worth doing anything. If I can't focus perfectly, I should start tomorrow. If I missed yesterday, this week is ruined. If I'm tired, today doesn't count. This kind of thinking destroys many routines. 15 minutes fights that pattern. It says something gentle but powerful. Today still counts. Even a tired day counts. Even a busy day counts. Even a messy day counts. And when many days count, real progress appears. What changed after 1 month? I kept going after the first week. 1 week became 2. 2 weeks became 3. Then 1 month passed. After 1 month, I noticed changes that were quiet but real. First, English felt less cold when I opened it. Before, there was often a strange emotional distance. I would open a lesson and feel resistance. Now, because I had been encountering English every day, that resistance became smaller. Second, my listening improved. Not because I had studied for huge amounts of time, but because I had trained my ears regularly. Certain phrases started to sound familiar faster. Common sentence patterns became easier to follow. Third, my speaking felt less stiff. I was not suddenly fluent, but my mouth was more awake. Repeating short lines daily had made English feel less unnatural physically. Fourth, my confidence improved in a new way, not the loud kind of confidence, not fake confidence, real quiet confidence. The kind that comes from knowing I show up. That matters. Confidence is not only the feeling that you are already good. Sometimes confidence is the feeling that you are becoming reliable. And perhaps the biggest change was this. I stopped seeing English as a huge future dream and started experiencing it as a daily present habit. That change is powerful. Dreams inspire us, but habits change us. The danger of waiting for the perfect study day. Many learners are waiting for a fantasy version of life. A life where they wake up early every day, drink water, sit at a clean desk, feel focused, feel motivated, and study for a full hour with total concentration. That can happen sometimes. And if it happens, great. But if your whole English progress depends on that kind of day, you are in trouble. Because most progress in life does not come from perfect days. It comes from ordinary days. Ordinary Tuesday evenings, ordinary tired mornings, ordinary lunch breaks, ordinary moments when you do a small thing instead of nothing. We often overestimate what we can do in one day and underestimate what we can do in 6 months. 1 hour once a week may feel impressive, but 15 minutes a day creates much more contact over time. And more importantly, it creates rhythm. Rhythm is one of the quiet secrets of growth. Once English has rhythm in your life, it becomes easier to continue. The habit carries you on days when inspiration is missing. Without rhythm, every session depends on emotion, and emotion is unreliable. Some days you feel inspired, some days you feel tired, some days you feel hopeful, some days you feel discouraged. If your routine depends on feeling ready, your routine will break often. But if your routine is small enough to survive low-energy days, it becomes stronger than mood. What you can actually do in 15 minutes. Now let's be practical. Many people hear 15 minutes and think that is too short to matter. But you can do a lot in 15 focused minutes. Here are some simple options. A. Listen to a short English story and repeat key lines. B. Watch a short English lesson and write down 5 useful phrases. C. Shadow one short audio clip by listening and repeating sentence by sentence. D. Read one short text aloud and practice pronunciation. E. Review 10 vocabulary words and make simple example sentences. F. Speak for 15 minutes about your day, your plans, or a topic from a lesson. G. Listen to 1 minute of audio several times until it feels clearer. H. Practice common questions and answers like small talk, job interview answers, or pharmacy English. I. Read 1 page of simple English and highlight useful expressions. J. Do a mix, 5 minutes listening, 5 minutes speaking, 5 minutes review. The key is not complexity, the key is focus. 15 distracted minutes are weaker than 15 focused minutes. When the time is short, your attention matters more. That is actually good news. It means you do not need giant sessions. You need clear, intentional sessions. My favorite 15-minute structure. After trying different things, I found a simple structure that worked very well for me. Minute 1 to 5, listen. I listen to a short clip, story, or lesson. Minute 6 to 10, repeat. I shadow or repeat useful lines aloud. Minute 11 to 15, produce. I speak, answer a question, or make my own sentences using what I heard. This structure is simple but powerful. First, your brain receives English. Then, your mouth copies English. Then, your mind creates English. That sequence helps many learners because it moves naturally from input to speaking. You do not have to use this exact structure every day, but it is a strong model, and because it is short, it feels possible. That word matters a lot, possible. A routine that feels possible is more valuable than a perfect routine you never follow. The emotional change nobody talks about. When people talk about language learning, they often talk about skills. Listening, grammar, vocabulary, speaking, pronunciation. But there is another change that daily practice creates. It changes your emotions around English. Before my 15-minute routine, English often brought guilt. I would think about all the videos I had saved, all the notes I had not reviewed, all the goals I had delayed. English became linked with failure. That is a dangerous emotional relationship. If English feels like guilt, you will avoid it. If English feels like proof that you are behind, you will resist it. If English becomes a source of self-attack, your mind will protect itself by staying away. Daily short practice slowly changed that relationship for me. English began to feel lighter, more human, more familiar. Less like an exam, more like a companion. That emotional shift is not small. It changes how easily you return the next day. It changes whether English feels like a punishment or a path. Many learners do not need more self-criticism. They need a method that lets them succeed often enough to rebuild trust. 15 minutes can do that. What happened when I missed a day? Of course, I was not perfect forever. One day I missed my session. And I noticed something important. Because the habit was small and regular, missing one day did not feel like a disaster. That is another hidden strength of the 15-minute routine. It is easier to restart. When a routine is too demanding, missing one day can feel like total collapse. Then shame enters and shame delays restart. But when the routine is gentle and realistic, restarting becomes easier. The next day I simply came back, no drama, no speech about failure, no I'll start next Monday. I just returned. This is a skill too, not only doing the habit, returning to the habit. People who improve in the long term are not always people who never break. Often they are people who return quickly. That is why small routines are powerful. They make returning less painful. The story of one tired evening. I remember one evening very clearly. I had a long day. My eyes were tired from screens. My shoulders felt heavy. I had zero desire to study, not low desire, zero. The old version of me would have skipped the session and said, "Today doesn't count. I'm too tired." But because I had made a clear promise to myself, I said something different, just 15 minutes, not forever, not a deep study session, just 15 minutes. So I sat down, opened a short English audio, and listened. My energy was low. My focus was not amazing, but I kept going. I repeated 2 or 3 lines, I wrote down one phrase, I answered one small question aloud. When the timer ended, I did not feel transformed. I felt something better. I felt proud. Why? Because I had done something when it would have been easy to do nothing. Those moments matter a lot. They are identity moments. Every time you act according to the person you want to become, even in a small way, you strengthen that identity. That evening, I was not someone waiting for the perfect mood. I was someone who showed up. That identity is worth more than one intense study session followed by a week of silence. Why small daily practice beats emotional studying? Many learners study emotionally. What do I mean by that? They study hard when they feel excited. They stop when they feel discouraged. They return when they feel inspired again. They disappear when life gets difficult. This creates a very unstable rhythm. It feels productive in the moment because 1 or 2 intense sessions can be satisfying. But over time, it becomes a cycle of enthusiasm and silence. Daily short practice breaks that cycle. It teaches the nervous system that English is not a dramatic event. It is a normal action, and once English becomes normal, it becomes easier to stay with it. We often admire intensity because it looks powerful, but consistency is more powerful than intensity. Intensity is loud. Consistency is quiet. Intensity is exciting. Consistency is effective. Intensity can impress you for one day. Consistency changes you over time. If you are serious about improvement, do not only ask, "How much can I do today?" Also ask, "What can I repeat for months?" That question leads to better habits. How 15 minutes affects speaking confidence. Let's talk specifically about speaking. Many learners think speaking confidence will come after they become good enough. But in reality, confidence often grows through repeated contact, not after perfect readiness. When you spend 15 minutes a day repeating lines, answering short questions, shadowing audio, or talking about your day, your mouth becomes less afraid of English. The sounds become less foreign. Your hesitation may still exist, but it becomes lighter. Speaking fear often grows in silence. If days and days pass without speaking, English begins to feel harder in the mouth than it really is. Then when you try to speak, you feel awkward, and that awkwardness becomes evidence in your mind that you are bad at speaking. But daily minute speaking interrupts that cycle. You do not need a huge speaking class every day. You need regular contact with your own voice in English. 1 sentence today, 3 sentences tomorrow, a short answer the next day. Over time, your brain starts learning something important. I can do this. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not quickly, but I can do this. That belief grows from repetition. How 15 minutes affects listening. Listening also changes in a powerful way with short daily practice. At first, English can sound too fast, too connected, too soft, too unclear. Many learners say, "I know the words, but I can't catch them." That is normal, but the ear learns through repeated exposure. If you listen for 15 minutes every day, especially to clear material slightly above your comfort level, your brain starts recognizing patterns more quickly. Common expressions begin to feel familiar. Pronunciation patterns begin to make more sense. Your mind stops panicking as much when it hears connected speech. Daily listening does not only improve understanding, it reduces fear. That matters, Because sometimes listening problems are not only about sound, they are also about tension. If you panic when you hear fast English, you understand less. Daily exposure slowly teaches the nervous system that hearing English is not an emergency. Again, small daily contact changes the relationship. The simple habit that makes everything easier. If I had to choose one principle from this whole lesson, it would be this. Make English smaller and it will become bigger in your life. That sounds strange, but it is true. When English is huge, difficult, and heavy, you avoid it. When English is small, clear, and daily, you touch it more often, and what you touch often becomes familiar. What becomes familiar becomes easier. What becomes easier becomes sustainable, and what becomes sustainable creates transformation. This is not about lowering your dream, it is about building a bridge to it. Big dreams need small doors. 15 minutes can be that door, practice together. Now let's do a small speaking and reflection practice together. Please repeat after me. I do not need a perfect plan. I need a plan I can follow. Small practice still counts. 15 minutes can change a lot. I can improve step by step. I do not need to wait for the perfect moment. I can begin today. Very good. Now answer these questions out loud if you can. What usually stops you from studying English? What feels too difficult in your current routine? What can you do in 15 minutes? What time of day is easiest for you? What kind of English practice do you enjoy most? You do not need long answers. Even 1 or 2 sentences are enough. The purpose of these questions is not only language, it is awareness. When you understand your real patterns, you can build a real habit. 5 common mistakes learners make. Here are 5 common mistakes learners make when trying to improve their English. A. They make the plan too big. B. They depend too much on motivation. C. They think short practice does not matter. D. They feel guilty after missing one day and then stop longer. E. They try to study everything at once. If you recognize yourself in any of these, do not feel ashamed. Many people learn this way at first. The goal is not to feel bad. The goal is to become wiser. A wiser learner builds a routine that fits real life. A wiser learner respects energy. A wiser learner values repetition. A wiser learner understands that consistency beats drama. How to build your own 15-minute routine. If you want to start today, here is a simple way. First, choose your time. It does not need to be perfect. It just needs to be realistic. Maybe after breakfast, maybe during lunch, maybe after work, maybe before bed. Second, choose your trigger. A trigger is the thing that happens before the habit. For example, after I make tea, I do my 15 minutes. After I sit at my desk, I do my 15 minutes. After dinner, I do my 15 minutes. Third, choose one activity type for the week. Do not overcomplicate it. Maybe this week is short listening and repeating. Maybe next week is interview speaking practice. Maybe the week after that is English stories and shadowing. Simplicity helps consistency. Fourth, set a timer. This makes the habit clear and manageable. Fifth, stop when the timer ends. You can do more if you want, but you do not need to. This helps the routine feel light, not endless. Sixth, track it. A simple check mark on paper is enough. Visible progress builds momentum. What 15 minutes a day can really change? Let's answer the big question directly. Can 15 minutes a day really change your English? Yes, not because 15 minutes is magical by itself, but because 15 minutes repeated over months changes many things at once. It changes your contact with English. It changes your emotional relationship with English. It changes your confidence. It changes your listening rhythm. It changes your speaking habit. It changes your identity. You stop becoming a person who wants to improve English someday. You become a person who studies English every day. That identity shift is huge. And from there, many other changes become possible. Maybe some days your 15 minutes becomes 25. Maybe one day a week becomes a longer session. Maybe your confidence grows enough to speak with someone. Maybe you will start understanding videos more easily. Maybe job interviews feel less frightening. Maybe daily life feels more open. Big changes often grow from small repeated roots. Final reflection. If you feel stuck in English right now, I want to tell you something very honestly. You may not need more pressure. You may not need a more beautiful planner. You may not need a more complicated method. You may not need to become a different person. You may simply need a smaller promise, a promise you can actually keep. 15 minutes a day may not look impressive on social media. It may not sound dramatic when you tell someone, but if you respect it, protect it, and repeat it, it can change far more than you expect. It can change how English sounds to your ears. It can change how English feels in your mouth. It can change how often you meet the language. It can change whether you trust yourself. It can change whether you keep waiting or start moving. Do not underestimate small, faithful actions. A plant does not grow because you shout at it one day. It grows because you water it again and again. Your English is like that too, not dramatic, not instant, but alive. Feed it regularly, touch it daily. Give it 15 minutes. Then give it another 15 tomorrow, and another the day after that. One day you will look back and realize something surprising. The English that once felt far away has become part of your daily life. The confidence you kept waiting for has quietly begun to grow. The learner who kept starting and stopping has become someone steady, and all of that began not with a perfect plan, but with one small, honest choice. 15 minutes. That is enough to begin. And sometimes, a beginning well is what changes everything. Thank you for listening.